So we'll begin with our prayer, please. Master of all worlds, highest power, merciful parent of compassion, in your presence, eternal one, source of strength for us, as you have been for our ancestors, we very humbly acknowledge you. What are we? What is our life? That you have done such great kindness to us. Therefore, we place our appeals before you, so that you may forgive and absolve us of all our faults and failings. That our faults never become barriers between us and you. And may it be your desire to prepare our hearts to feel awe and love for you. May you listen to these words of ours, and may you open our encumbered hearts through the mysteries of your Torah. May this, our study, be a source of pleasure before your throne of glory like sweet incense. May you shower down upon us the light of our soul's source in all the ways by which we define ourselves. May the sparks of your holy servants, through whom you have revealed these words to the world, shine and sparkle. May their merit, their ancestors' merit, and the merit of their Torah, their innocence and their holiness, stand for us so as to prevent us from stumbling when we study these words. In their merit, may our eyes be illumined by what we study. As in the saying of the sweet singer of Israel, open my eyes, that I may gaze into wonders of your Torah. May the words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. For it is the Eternal who grants wisdom. It is from his mouth and understanding issue forth. Na 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 na. Na na na. Na 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 na. Na na na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na na na. Na 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 na. Na na na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 99 999. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. No 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 no. No 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 no. Na 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 na. Oh na na. na 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 na. Oh no no no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. Oh no 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 no. No, 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 no. On page 333, 333, and we're involved in a whole discussion and consideration of how we understand or how we don't understand the way that God might communicate to us through dreams or prophecy. And we have discussion about the difference between them, the difference from the difference regarding their source, from where do they come, the difference in their essence, the difference in who is eligible for prophecy, who is eligible for dreams. And of course, dreams, as we've, remarked, dreams are accessible, are an experience that many people have. And we're talking about dreams that are not just dreams that we generate out of our own anxieties or hopes or mishigasin or whatever, dreams that somehow break through into another realm where there's some kind of heavenly influence within the dream. And yet, nevertheless, the dream is not quite the same thing as a prophecy. So we've been talking about this around and around. And the two main examples that we've had of a prophecy and a dream are the vision of Ezekiel. And we had all kinds of discussions about how could Ezekiel possibly have had his mystical dream prophecy vision of the chariot when he was outside of the land of Israel. So there's a claim that prophecy must be in the land of Israel. Dreams can be anywhere. So we had a whole discussion about that. And the other example that we need to keep on looking at, and that's why it's here, is the dream of Jacob, of the ladder. And the question that we've had with regard to Jacob was, this is such an amazing vision. How come it's only a dream? Why doesn't it qualify as a prophecy? Why doesn't it? Why didn't it get to the level of prophecy? So and we talk about the idea of a mar'ah, of a vision. That was the last thing that we looked at in 332, coming up to 333. So if we'll start at 333, we have a short answer that even though Jacob was in the land of Israel, still his exhaustion, he falls asleep in this special place, but that special place, Beit El, is in the land of Israel, ripe for a revelation in a prophetic way, and yet it's a dream. 333, the top of the page. So at that time, I wonder if anybody would like to read for us this evening. Oh, good. Whew. What a relief. Okay, Beryl, you're on. Top of the page. So at that time.
So at that time it is written of Jacob, he dreamed. Here, a ladder set up on earth. What does ladder imply? A rung on which other rungs depend.
Okay, so we're going to start now unpacking the dream, but the first part of this is that's why it's called a dream, because it was at that particular moment in Jacob's life. It couldn't be a prophecy. He wasn't worthy of a prophecy. Why not? Look at the note, 101, 100.
So at that time, when he was still unmarried.
Right, so he's not married yet, therefore he's not fully qualified to experience prophecy itself. So we talked all about something about that last time. Therefore, he dreamed, and now hine, here, look here, right? Sulam mutzav arza. So what is this sulam? What is it? A rung on which other rungs depend. Okay, so again, look at 101.
So at that time, when he was still, oh no, I'm on the wrong one, sorry.
Next one.
Rung
Go a rung down, go one rung down.
Rung on which other rungs depend. Shekhinah, from whom lower rungs and powers derive.
Okay, so this is going to, be part of this whole discussion. What do we make out of this ladder? What is this ladder upon which there are these celestial beings that are moving up and down, and the ladder itself has a complicated kind of positioning because it's rooted down below here, but it goes all the way up to heaven. A very apt image of the whole question that we have here. How do we connect up between us and God? How do we down here below have any hope, or what are the means that we can employ to get connected? So the ladder is this connecting vehicle, right, or means of connection. So here the suggestion is it's identified with Shekhinah, which makes a lot of sense. Shekhinah, that's her role, right? Her role is to have this kind of like double identity. On the one hand, she is the lover of her divine partner, and as a lover would want, she would have like nothing better than that just be engaged in union with her paramour and be united as one with the other half of God, and that of course is the aspiration both of both halves of God. So and nobody should bother us. Put the do not disturb door sign on the door. On the other hand, her very essence is also to look outward and to be the mother, the dispenser of life out into the non-divine world. So she is literally connected to heaven and connected to the earth. So the phrase that's used here is a rung on which other rungs depend. Right? What's that all about? How do people understand that? Anybody want to just give a little expansion, a little exposition of how would that be a good description of Shekhinah? Yeah, Sandra. You have to unmute.
I think when I think about rung upon which others depend, I think about foundation. That would be the kind of the first part, and then other things would be built upon it.
Okay, so you're working from the ground up.
Yeah, I am.
Right, and the word foundation, are you using foundation on purpose?
Yeah. Yes.
Sure, why not?
Yes, I am. I am. I said it. I am. I stand by it.
What's the Hebrew word for foundation?
Yesod.
Yesod, right.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Right.
All right.
So Yesod, and of course Yesod is one of the common names for one of God's many aspects,
Yeah.
of the 10 aspects of God that we lay out on that diagram. So Yesod is called foundation, right? We're going to see in this ongoing development of this discussion that the imagery is going to go back and forth between Yesod and Shechina, between Yesod and Malchut. So sometimes we're going to think about this as having to do with Yesod, and sometimes having to do with Shechina. But the image that you're giving us of the Yesod as being the base, right? The foundation, literally,
Yes.
the foundation, and everything else has to be built upon it. With no foundation, there's no place for the other stuff to be.
Yes.
So that literally, as I said, goes from bottom up. But we can imagine the other direction as well, right? We can imagine that, you know, God forbid, somebody is stuck in a fire, right? And they're on the 10th floor, right? And they are not going to be able to get out of there unless there's a ladder. Unless the ladder, you know, the fire truck comes and puts up the ladder, and then they're able to come down and come from top to bottom, right? They can get out of that top floor and come down. So without all of the dramatic, dangerous stuff that I'm talking about with the fire, all of the other way to look at it is all of the other divine potencies, so to speak, are stuck. They're stuck up in the upper regions, in the upper stories. The only way they're going to be able to get down to earth is with Shekhinah. If there's no Shekhinah, then they're stuck in the Godhead, so to speak. They're stuck within the bubble of divinity and will never be able to pour out their life force in all of their various manifestations. They'll never be able to give it over. It will all be stopped up. So Shekhinah is both the one that collects all of those energies, but then she funnels them out. Then she funnels them out into the world. So if any part of God has any hope of connecting to the world, all of those rungs that are up above depend on Shekhinah to be there. Otherwise, they can't send their life force down into the world and influence the world, sustain the world, and keep the world going that was established for by them at the beginning. Yeah, Sandra.
The other thing that I was struggling with when I thought of foundation, because I thought of Yesod and then I get anxious and think, no, that's not right. But the other thing that I was thinking is that Shekhinah is also the lens through which we observe the other emanations. And so again, she's the core source for the other emanations to present themselves, I guess.
Right. So that's what we would say in some discussions. It's called klapi didan from our side. From our side, she is the lens, and that's the gateway or the lens or so many other different ways that we can imagine of our ability to be able to then have some connection with the divine. So the other rungs depend on Shekhinah for her to be able to make human beings connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it goes both ways.
Right.
Both ways. So that's one way. That's, in other words, this whole thing that we've just been talking about is a way to understand why the other rungs, the other levels of divinity depend on Shekhinah, whether it's for their own giving forth of life into the world, or for the rest of the world to actually have some kind of apprehension that there is a God in the world. Yeah, Larry, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at it much more, I don't know, not literally, but maybe like mundanely, that what this was describing is that Shekhinah was the top of the ladder, and that going down from the ladder, you had the angels, like we talked about, I think it was 2 weeks ago, there were the 4 archangels who were like, Michael, Gabriel, Uriel, and Raphael going down from that, right? That's the way it seemed like, and that corresponded to the biblical image of the angels going up and down, with Shekhinah being at the top. But then another question I had about that was, if Tiferet, Tiferet is mating with Shekhinah, and Tiferet is Yaakov, then Yaakov is kind of above Shekhinah. Whereas here in the Torah, whoops. What happened?
I don't know, things are hinky tonight. In my last class, I had 2 blackouts, and then I lost my internet, so I don't know.
I think we lost the rabbi also. See if he comes back. I don't know who then becomes who has the meeting then.
I mean, Larry, you were on my screen the whole time.
Yeah, who became the host? I don't know.
Larry became the host.
Yay, Larry! Congrats on your promotion.
You're in charge.
Yep. Go ahead, lead us.
What do I do?
The Holy Roman Empire, with neither holy nor a Roman. Discuss.
I mean, what do I do to let somebody in? What does that mean? I don't know.
Oh, just say yes. It's probably the rabbi, so yeah, go ahead and totally let him in.
Wait a minute. Let's just see if the rabbi is on the participants. Oh, the rabbi's not listed as one of the participants.
May I ask a stupid question? What are we reading from?
Page 333.
Yeah, I know. Of what?
Volume 2 of the Pritzker edition of the Zohar.
Oh, did you guys buy the whole
Oh, heavens,
set of
no.
those books?
Oh,
What?
no, just one at a time.
No, just one at a time. It takes about 3 years to get through a book.
Okay, so if I buy Safaria is just too slow. I've tried it on Safaria,
What does that mean?
and that's impossible. So if I
Yeah, they
Pritzker
have them on
volume
Amazon,
2?
I believe.
Amazon has them.
Amazon, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll find it. So it's volume 2 of the Pritzker edition.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Danny-
thank you
it's
very
Danny-
much.
It's Danny Matt's book. That's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, no, I saw that, but in an email.
I took it out of the library.
You what?
It's
I
in
took
the
it out of
library.
And then after 11 times I renewed it, it said I had to return it already.
Really? They let you do it 11 times?
So then I returned it. Now I have to wait like a waiting period to take it out again.
Wow.
Listen, this is all very enchanting, but how do we get to the rabbi?
So we get back to,
Did anybody text him? Otherwise, I'll text him.
I feel like we lost contact with the divine.
Well, he might be trying to get in. Like if anybody's trying to enter, just let them in.
Maybe
No.
we should
I think I
leave
left my phone
and start
upstairs.
all over again.
That's what I was thinking.
What was that?
Everybody go out and come in again.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking also.
All right,
Hold on, I'm gonna ask the rabbi. Should we leave and come back?
okay.
Oh no, here he is.
Okay.
Oh, yay.
Unmute yourself, Rabbi. There you go.
Oh, here he is.
Yeah,
Okay.
funny,
Wow.
funny.
Sorry, yes, so my whole connection disappeared and I apologize. So I lost Larry in the middle of what he was saying when he was saying that he had a more mundane, all the way back there.
We're totally enlightened now. We're all okay. We're done.
And we're on to book 3.
Good. Sorry. Yes.
All right.
Okay. So
Okay.
you said you were thinking about it in a more mundane way.
I was thinking about it the ladder going down with the Shekhinah at the top and the angels, the four archangels going down, whatever. But then I was wondering about the concept on the chart that if Tiferet is the mate or the lover of Shekhinah, of Malchut, and Tiferet represents Yaakov, then to my way of thinking, it appears that Yaakov is above Shekhinah. Whereas in the Torah, Yaakov is on the ground and Shekhinah is above Yaakov. I don't know. I'm just so confused.
All right. So I think that we need to loosen up a little bit. And the guy is not always on top. Is the first thing to remember. And remember back a few weeks ago that we had precisely this kind of discussion in the Zohar, where when the king visits the queen or the other servant, the king abides by what the servant wants or what the queen wants. So if Jacob theoretically is mapped out as being Tiferet, that's in some kind of essentialist way of mapping out the divine energies, but the interactions are not static in any kind of hierarchical way. So if they're embracing, they're going to embrace, and let it be however it's going to be. So I don't think that you should get hung up on that kind of diagramming. That's why in general I try to avoid a little bit the labeling and the diagramming, because it freezes us. It's very powerful. And it freezes us sometimes into these little boxes that I see in front of me, which are not great. The other thing I want to say is that Tiferet also should not be limited to Tiferet. Tiferet is the core that branches out into all of the other into Chesed and Gvura and then Tiferet and then Netzach, Hod and Yesod. They're all connected to Tiferet. When we think about the 4-letter name of God, so the Yud is Chochmah, the first Hey is Bina, the last Hey is Shechina, and the Vav is everything else, is Tiferet with all of the other manifestations together, 6 altogether. So Tiferet is not to be isolated as being just its own little point, which sometimes it's called a point, but it's a point. It's a central point that is connected to everything else. So all right, so we have a few other ways of looking at it, and the suggestion that the rungs are the lower rungs that are not really the rungs of the divinity, but the rungs that come later, the angels. That's a possible suggestion. I try to adopt that suggestion only when I have to. We've had it before also as a possible reading, and I prefer to take the levels to mean what they usually mean. I'm gonna hold on a second. I want to just give a quick look to what he's translating as rungs. And yeah, Dargin. Okay. I would point out that in the traditional editions of the Zohar, there's a phrase that Danny Matt erases, and it's in it's in some texts, but other texts not, and that is a rung on which other rungs depend, and that is Yesod. So he erases that phrase, and that is Yesod, because he prefers to look at it only as Shechina. But we'll see that the Yesod is going to come back again. Okay. So its head reaching to heaven. Beryl.
Reaching to heaven, for he is,
No. The paragraph before that.
oh, its head reaching to heaven, so as to be linked with it. Its head reaching to heaven. Who is its head? Head of that ladder? Who is that? The one of whom is written, head of the bed. For he is the head of this bed, which shines from him.
Okay. So according to Matt now, if you look at 103,
He is the head of this bed, which shines from him. The head of the bed and head of that ladder is Yesod, linked with Shekhinah and illuminating her.
okay. So that's his consistent reading. So we have now then that Shekhinah is linked to the top of the ladder is Yesod, going back to that kind of diagrammatic way of looking at things. And Yesod is, if you look at the diagram, Yesod is directly below Tiferet, the way we map it out, because Yesod is that direct extension, literally, of Tiferet's powers, and Yesod is the member that penetrates Shekhinah on behalf of all of the vital juices of the divine. If we read it that no, the ladder is Yesod, then the head is Shekhinah. Right, and sometimes Shekhinah is called Atara, which is the crown of the head. So these are ambiguous ways of mapping it out. And like I say, it's a little messy, but its head reaching to heaven is possibly, the point is the linkage, right? As it says here, so as to be linked. So if we look at it again from above to below, it's through Yesod that the divine life force is able to penetrate Shekhinah, and then the Shekhinah is able to pass it along. If we look at it the other way, then the yearning of the divine to infuse, impregnate, engender, requires it to find its climax within Shekhinah. And Shekhinah is what makes everything that is bottled up in Yesod able to burst forth. And so if we think about that, there's a little bit of a kind of a mirror imaging, or I don't know if that's the proper way, but there's a similarity. Yesod as the divine phallus is in a certain way a kind of a Shekhinah, a kind of a collecting vehicle, because that's where all of the other juices finally come to be concentrated. And then, of course, Yesod dispenses it and pushes it out. The same thing with Shekhinah. Shekhinah then collects all of the vital juices and then dispenses it, right? So there's that same kind of act of bringing everything together and then releasing it. Yesod does it, and Shekhinah does it. The difference being that Yesod does it within the closed divine realm, and Shekhinah does it in that much more dualistic way, where she actually then dispenses it out into the rest of the world. Okay. Head of the bed, that comes back to Jacob when Jacob dies. After he finishes giving out all of the pronouncements to the family, then it says that he collected himself and bowed to the head of the bed. Okay, so and that's understood most of the time as being bowing to Shekhinah. So here, as I said, again, it's a little loose in terms of how you want to identify it with a label, or you can let go a little bit of the labels. Okay, reaching to heaven.
Reaching to heaven, for he is consummation of the body, standing between above and below, just as covenant is consummation of the body, standing between thighs and torso. So, reaching to heaven.
Okay, so this sounds again like we're talking about Yesod, not Shekhinah. Right, so is this the head or is this the ladder itself? The answer is have it whichever way you want. But the idea that Yesod is the consummation of the body, Yesod is all of the body's energy, all of the body's life force is brought into concentrated seminal potential through Yesod, and it makes it possible for all of that energy to then be discharged into a life-giving situation. And the covenant is the Brit, right? So that becomes the human paradigm reflecting the divine paradigm, right? That the ultimate place of the body's yearning for perpetuating its life is to be found in the phallus, standing between thighs and torso. Right? And we talked about the thighs before. The thighs are the protection of the phallus on both sides, identified traditionally within the Kabbalistic terminology with Hod and Netzach, or Netzach and Hod, to put it from right to left. And those are the seats of prophecy. The torso is Tiferet and all of the attendant energies. So again, either going from down to up or from up to down, reaching all the way to heaven. And of course, the idea also meaning that somehow, if you do it right, then the male acting through their Brit can also reach heaven, right? That this is not just a human problem, of how to deal with your erotics, but rather this is a divine mystery that can be appreciated as being in the divine image. That your life, your sexual life, can in some way be a life that brings one into heavenly concord. Okay, reaching to heaven.
Reaching to heaven, for he is consummation of the body.
You read that.
Oh. And here angels of God ascending and descending on it. deputies of all nations who ascend and descend on this ladder. When Israel sins, this ladder is lowered, and they ascend. When Israel rectifies its actions, this ladder ascends. They all descend below, and their dominion vanishes. All this ladder. Here, Jacob saw in his dream dominion of Esau, dominion of nations.
Okay, so here the ladder again turns back into Shekhinah, and Shekhinah as that root, right? R-O-U-T-E, that brings divine energy into the world and worldly energy up into the divine. She here is depicted as subject to the lower rungs, and if you want to use the word rungs here, the angels use Shekhinah, right? The angels travel by means of Shekhinah. The linkage between God and the world below, the mundane world, is accomplished through Shekhinah, but then we have the danger of such a linkage, because if the linkage works too much in giving power to lower forces, then they will take over. So the idea is a little bit, if anybody lived in an apartment house with a fire escape, the metal fire escapes with the sliding ladders. So the point is that the sliding ladder is there, it's up so that nobody can climb into your apartment, but it's going to slide down if you need to use it to get out of your apartment and jump back down outside, right? Back what we were talking about before about depending on that ladder.
Mhm.
So now what the Zohar says is the ladder itself moves up and down. Not just the angels move up and down on the ladder, but the ladder itself moves up and down. When Israel sins, then what happens? This ladder is lowered and they ascend. Right? Then the angels that are happy to create all kinds of business down here below without being connected to God, they are able to achieve, some authority. When Israel rectifies its actions, this ladder ascends. The ladder gets pulled back up, and then none of those lower forces can grab hold of the ladder in order to take over and have their way, right? Their dominion vanishes. So all depends on the ladder, back to what we had before, right? A rung on which other rungs depend. Now we have the idea that really it all depends on what the placement is of the ladder, right? Is the ladder pulled up by God, by Israel's righteousness? So, and that's the unification of the ladder with the other realms. That's the unification of Shekhinah with her lover. When Israel does the right thing, we create a unifying energy that brings the lovers together. So paradoxically, the more we engage actively in this world in doing mitzvot, in a certain sense, the more God is distanced from the world and is preoccupied with loving it, itself, herself, himself, themselves, oneself. It's when we mess up that the divine is then subject to take over by the divine is brought down here below into the proximity and into the vulnerability of being taken over by lower forces of the earth. That would be called a chilul Hashem, right? A profanation of God, of making God less God and more mundane and profane. So it all depends. Here, Jacob saw in his dream Esav's dominion, right? He saw angels going up, right? He saw angels going up, but also angels going down. So the idea that Jacob is seeing into the future, that right now it looks like angels are the worldly angels, the princes of the other evil empires, like Esav, will ascend. They will attain power and success, but eventually they'll come down, right? This is part of the peculiarity that was noticed by many readers, where it says, Malachei Elokim olim v'yordim bo. It should say the opposite. It should say the angels come down and go up. Aren't the angels in heaven? Why are they going up? So there are many midrashic answers to that question. One of the beautiful answers is, these are the angels that were accompanying Jacob in the land of Israel. Now he was at the border, so they had to leave, and God was now sending new angels to protect Jacob. So first the old guard goes up, and then the new guard comes down. So that's a very loving, supportive idea of the angels. But this is a much darker idea. This is the idea that those angels are not up to anything good. This is not these are not good angels. These are the angels of the nations of the world who look out for their own interests and don't treat Israel well. So that's the scary part of this first part of his vision. He sees them succeeding. He sees them gaining power, gaining dominion. So one of the questions some of the commentators ask, he's making them go up? Now, is the fact that he's having this, is he having that effect that the Zohar says? That if Israel sins, then the angels are allowed to grab onto the rungs of the ladder and start climbing up and taking over. So their answer is no, it's not that he's sinned and he's causing any of this. This is the prophecy kind of idea. This is the vision that he has of what's in store, what could be, what the situation could develop into if we're not careful. All right, any comments on this whole business now? All right, so we keep going.
Alternatively, and here angels of God ascending and descending, bow because of him. Because of whom? Head of that ladder, for when its head withdraws, the ladder is subdued and they all ascend. When the head unites with it, the ladder ascends and they all descend. All is one word.
Okay, so we have an alternative that's a little different, but in the end, it all comes to the same. According to this alternative, olim v'yordim bo. So the word bo means through him, by means of him, because of him. Gesundheit.
Excuse me. Thank you.
So look at 108, please.
Wait, let me find the right page.
333, the last note.
Because of him, usually translated on it.
Right, so that's what we've been looking at until now. We've been looking at the angels are using the ladder, depending on where the ladder is situated, how it's positioned, they can go up and down on it, right? But now we're saying actually because of it. What does that mean? Go ahead.
The Hebrew preposition be means on, in, but also with, through, and on account of, because, as in,
etc., etc., etc.
Yep.
Okay, so now read the next note. So what is this head of the ladder now?
the pronominal suffix vav can mean either it or him.
Right, now 109.
When its head withdraws, the ladder is subdued. When Yesod withdraws from Shekhinah, interrupting their union, she is lowered and exploited by the foreign deputies.
Right, so here we have the identification of the ladder with Shekhinah and the head with Yesod. And now it's not the ladder that's moving up and down, but it's Yesod that's moving up and down. When Yesod extends itself to come down to Shekhinah in that kind of diagrammatic way of looking at Shekhinah as below and Yesod is above, when Yesod goes down, then unification is achieved. When unification is achieved, Shekhinah is empowered, Shekhinah is filled with life and with potency, and then Shekhinah is impervious to attack by the dark forces. But if there is a separation between Yesod and Shekhinah, and of course that means that all of the male lover is somehow alienated, distanced from his lover Shekhinah, then Shekhinah is weakened. She's bereft of that life-giving, loving embrace of God. And then she's like the damsel in distress. Then she is open to being grabbed, to be abducted by the villains. And of course, the only way to stop that is that we have to come in on our white horse, Israel, and do mitzvahs as much as we can to save the damsel in distress. So Shekhinah is dependent on whether or not she's getting loved by her partner, and her getting love from her partner depends on whether she gets love from us. When we don't act, to serve God, then God is, is broken apart. God is neutralized, and God is weakened and is incapable of reaching out in love to God's own partner. So there's a doubling of hold on, Larry, I'll read it in a second. There's a doubling of the divine love partner is doubled. The divine love partner is both Shekhinah and also us.
Oh,
So if we act with love toward God, then God is able to love their lover. If we don't act with love to God, then God is hampered, God is weakened, and God is made more vulnerable to manipulation and abduction. I want to just read Larry's thing before, and then Sandra will cut to you, okay? Is it possible for the angels of the Gentile nations to conquer Shekhinah? The answer is yes. Is God vulnerable? I just said so, yes. Right? Opposite of verse from Obadiah we recite before Yishtabach, Ve'olu Moshim Behar Tzion. That's correct. That's the end vision. The end vision of when saviors will finally come and ascend Mount Zion and judge Esav. That's the end time. We had that, also way back. When is that going to happen? Why is Jacob, who's supposed to be the one who's the winner, why is Jacob, meaning us, why are we below? Why are we constantly being oppressed and attacked and murdered and impoverished and so on? And the answer is because Jacob did not cash in that blessing, leaving it to the end, right? Remember, we had that discussion. So yes, Esav is able to take the energies that God would love to shower upon us for the good and to embezzle them. It's an act of embezzlement. Yeah, Sandra.
So we have talked many times about the relationship between us and God, and that God in many ways is dependent upon us, or something. Okay. However, what I'm struck with is here is this God that is full of wonder and awe and all powerful. And yet in these moments that you've just talked about, this God is so delicate. The balance is gossamer threads, if you will. And I'm wondering, is this the perception of, now I know what I'm saying, of most of Judaism, or is this more the mystical perception of how we operate with God and how the balance with God is so incredibly delicate?
Okay, who wants to answer that question? So,
well, every now and then you throw me out of the water and I think I'm sitting here so nicely and comfortably.
right. The short answer, and I think essentially the correct answer is this is very much the Zohar's answer, and very much within the stream of mystical, Kabbalistic, whatever terms you want to use, esoteric,
Yes.
Jewish thought. It's a troubling approach,
Yes.
and it was kept esoteric for a reason. It wasn't considered something that most people could understand, and nobody is guaranteeing that I or anybody on this screen actually even understands what we're saying in any kind of way that reflects reality. I mean, we can all talk as much as we want, but I think that there are other kinds of, look, the question, and we've come back to the question again and again and again, is the question of evil in the world, and specifically the experience by Israel of evil in the world, right? So the scandal is that we feel that we have a golden path of service to God, and that we are very often beautifully engaged in living that way, and nevertheless we get clobbered again and again and again. So this is the famous theodicy question: why do good people suffer? Why is there evil in the world if God is so good and God cares? So either God doesn't care and everything is arbitrary, so it doesn't matter that we're good. But that is an unacceptable position for traditional Judaism. So then the question is, how do you get out of it? So in the end, you never really get out of it. But the Zohar's answer is probably the most, in my eyes, the most, the richest way of trying to figure it out. There are simpler ways, and the simpler ways may be more correct. I mean, the simplest way, and I find that way for myself very much, can I say, the way that I usually walk is you say, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, how am I supposed to understand how God is operating? I don't know. The answer to the question is radical ignorance. And that's one way of reading Job, right? God says at the end, guess what? You just can't understand this. It's not going to be understandable for you. So give it up. That's one way of understanding it. Other ways that have been brought up are to test, right? It's not, it's not really going to endure all the way. Eventually, everything will be settled. But right now, we're being tested. How strong is our faith? How strong is our devotion? That's another way of looking at it. And another way of looking at it is, no, actually, we get what we deserve. The reason that that evil is rampant in the world, and the reason that Israel gets hurt so much, is because we have failed so miserably in living out our mission that we don't deserve any better. Those are very harsh ideas, and certainly in modern times, that's considered by most modern quote unquote Jews, that's unacceptable. But there are still some people that think about it today. Yes, so now this is, of course, the cue for Mark to come in.
Oh, no, it's not a cue at all. I want to bring you back to something that I thought I heard, and now I'm not sure I heard it. Because what I thought you said some time back is that when we don't sin, God retreats from the world.
I said that as a reflection on what the Zohar was saying here, and it's a paradoxical
That's right.
proposition, right?
That's right. Okay. But if you hold on to that, then sin is an invitation for God to become involved.
Oh.
And so that changes the relationship somewhat, because going back, I don't know how many years, God hears the cry. So in order for the cry to bring God into the world, we have to suffer pain. So it's not that we get what we deserve. It's that pain and suffering has an essential role to play in maintaining the relationship between the mundane and the divine. Now that's really horrible. That's even more horrible than you get what you deserve.
Right.
But I held on to that little piece that you said because it was so bizarre. And now all of a sudden I have a place to plug it in. And that puts me in even a worse place than I would be. So thank you very much.
You anytime, as you know. So I want to just put a couple of thoughts. So yes, the idea that that's a justification is, for you, as you said it, and for me too, a very appalling kind of an idea. What I was thinking of as you were talking is, that the sinning is a kind of an invitation of divine engagement. I was thinking of the way sometimes kids act out, or people act out because they're not getting attention, because they're not being paid attention to. So what do? They end up doing terrible things, stupid things, self-destructive things. Anything that they can, because they see that if they act nice, they get completely ignored. And they're starved for love, they're starved for attention, they're starved for support. And these are sad stories that we're all familiar with in one way or another. So I think that that's more of what, and then what happens usually is that the engagement that they get is, if they get it, if they get slapped around, it's a kind of an abusive, affirmation that they count. So that's the terrible kind of thing that people sometimes get sucked into, and it's no good. So coming back to the Zohar doesn't want that, and the Zohar is not trying to use that as the explanation, because the one piece that gets left out in this particular discussion, but not in the Zohar in general, is that it's an oscillation. The the private love between God and God that we have no business messing with and interrupting. Again, we're talking in very limited terms because we're humans. That private love is the love that then gives birth to more mundane bliss. It makes the sun shine. It makes the birds chirp. It makes all of us alive. So that's, again, the paradox. The more we can push our divine parents together into an embrace, and then we have to close the door and let them alone and go watch television or something, then the more they will then be able to then come back out of the door and be loving to us. That's why the evil, when evil predominates, it's because that hasn't been allowed to happen. Right? That's the weakening of God. So when I said that very paradoxical, kind of ironic way of saying it, it was only half the piece. It is only half of the whole equation. To some extent, I talk about this in my book, that's part of this whole paradox, that the more the divine can be concentrated as the divine, the more the mundane is able to flourish. All right. All right, we have a few more minutes. Anybody else? Did I stop somebody from saying something? Somebody wanted to say? Jen.
That I don't know how relevant this is now, and it's a little meta, I'm sorry, but when you were describing all the different options the Zohar and Judaism at large had for dealing with this question of evil and how our vulnerability and God's vulnerability came up, it occurred to me, when I first came to the class, somebody or all of us had, compared the Zohar to Gnosticism, and I feel like this is where you can really see that it didn't take the road of the Gnostics, because there's none of the possibilities you mentioned had anything to do with, well, what happens here doesn't matter. Is this, a complete divide between humanity, between our souls, and like this is all illusion, or this is whatever. And that's not entirely every Gnostic aspect, but it's a large part of it, like this divide where you can just kind of, the suffering we have here either glorifies what comes later or doesn't matter, or all of those, everything here, it's from what I've heard in the classes I've been to, really does matter. Our human lives matter, the earth matters. We have that carried over definitely from Judaism, and it's a big departure. And that's why I think it is much more, Neoplatonism is also on this side where the earth matters and humans matters. And so I think it's very cool that we didn't take that road, when that road was very much out there in the world at the time, that probably when this was being written, it seems to have completely rejected any thought that this is all illusion or not important or anything like that. That's all.
Thank you. And I just want to say it's it depends on how you read the Torah, but a certain way of reading the Torah forecloses that option that you're talking about, right? Now, of course, I've always acknowledged that you can read the Torah any way you want. So,
I would agree, though.
What I'm saying is, in an amazing way, a certain kind of way of reading the Torah has won out. And that way of reading the Torah says, God looks at the world and says, you know what? Pretty good. Pretty good. Tov ma'od. So right there at the opening of the Torah. So, all of the stuff that we do to mess up, nevertheless, there's this predicate at the beginning. The starting, proposition is, this is all pretty good. And then, let's hold on to it. Yeah. Okay, we still have a couple of minutes late. Let's see if we can read just maybe one more paragraph.
It is written, God appeared to Solomon in a dream by night and said to him, ask what I should give you. Now you might say, here in a dream. What authority does a dream have to do this? But here rung merged with rung, upper rung with lower rung. For until now, Solomon was incomplete. As soon as he attained perfection, it is written, Yud-He Vav-He gave Solomon wisdom. And similarly, the wisdom of Solomon increased, for the moon became full. The temple was built, and then Solomon saw wisdom eye to eye and had no need of dreams.
Right. So here we have, and we're not going to finish looking at this tonight. We have the idea that Shlomo, King Solomon, has a dream at night, and God supposedly comes in this dream and says, what do you really want? Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. And what does Solomon ask for? Right, he just said it. Wisdom, right? He doesn't ask for riches. He doesn't ask for political power. He doesn't ask for 1,000 wives. He can do that on his own. But what he asks for is wisdom. And then he's promised wisdom. So the Zohar notices now, let's talk dreams, right? And dreams supposedly don't come from that divine source. They come from the lower angels, from Gabriel, from our own human, reaching out for things, but they don't have the same divine, energy suffusing them. So now the Zohar says, so what kind of dream is this then? What validity does this dream have? If it's a dream, then whatever promises of wisdom are in the dream, that's just a dream. You're a dreamer. That's not a real gift from God. So the answer that the Zohar gives here is, don't be thinking in black and white so much, right? Don't keep thinking in this kind of straightforward either or way. The dream had a suffusion, an infusion of divine energy, the higher rung with the lower rung. Solomon couldn't yet fully experience prophecy. Solomon couldn't yet fully connect up directly with the divine. He wasn't ready yet, right? It wasn't complete. But his yearning pushes the balance so that the dream itself has qualities of the divine in it. There's some divine hiding within the dream experience. So that's the validity that it that the dream has. It's powered. It's a dream, but it's powered by a divine prophetic energy, and that's where we have again the example of breaking down these walls, breaking down these membranes that separate the below and above, that separate the human being from God. Right? There's enough yearning on the part of Solomon so that even though he's not officially totally worthy of prophecy, God gives him according to the rules. You get a dream, okay, I'll have to abide by the rule, but I'm going to sneak in some prophecy into the dream, right? There's this extra kind of consideration that no, chalom. I think it says chalom. You have to look. I'm almost positive it says chalom. With this we'll conclude. What is it? Yeah. So here it is. Right. Right. Nira Hashem el Shlomo b'chalom halayla. right? So there's that mixing, right? The eternal was appeared to Shlomo in a nighttime dream. So the Zohar says, yeah, there's a little mix here of both together. We can think about this the next time we meet. Next week is the night before Pesach. And we need to be all through the night, all the mice are going to be scampering around. So we need to take care of all of that. So we're not going to meet next Thursday night. But we will be meeting, yes,
Chol Hamoed Pesach.
Chol Hamoed, Thursday, April 1st. April Fool's Day, we'll meet again. Okay, no joke. Okay, Zag isn't everybody. A Zisen Pesach, a sweet, sweet, sweet Pesach, in however you can pull it off.
Decent.
Danke schön.
Yashkoach.